World affairs, facts and opinion, their future in our hands. Markets, globalist technocrats versus the people. A line in the sand. The McIntyre Report.
And welcome back, folks, to another McIntyre Report here live for Australian National Review for our 24-hour news headlines, ANR.news, the Bondi Massacre. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Predictably, we said if Israel's behind this, this is what they would have done. They would blame Iran, of course, which they did. It's interesting that a foreign state such as Israel, who's the prime suspect in most globalist terror attacks before any investigation, just by the past pattern of behavior, motive, and the fact that's what they do through their intelligence agency Mossad, which people don't realize that Mossad controls intelligence agencies through the Five Eyes, a CIA, etc. It was all set up by the same criminal cartel that set up the banker wanker state called Israel, which is not biblical, certainly all not chosen by God either. Of course, we predicted they would frame Iran and an Islamic terrorist, which they failed to highlight to the average person that they're the ones that hire and recruit Islamic terrorists and build organizations such as ISIS, Hamas, even Al-Qaeda to do their dirty work so they can blame it on the Muslims and Islamic terrorists. But we predicted also remove our guns. AFP confirms Australia is set to follow in the footsteps of UK, saying that individuals who use hate speech can expect a knock on the door from police, apart from removing our guns, which they are doing anyhow. My comment to that was, wouldn't removing the guns and weapons off Israel and the Islamic terrorist proxy armies they recruit and train to use, such as ISIS, to carry out global terror attacks, be a better solution? Like taking guns off Australians, considering we don't have many guns, especially after Port Arthur massacre, which once again Mossad was behind. We aren't the ones that love bombing and shooting kids and their parents to death daily, unlike Israel. I can't see how that will solve the problem, nor will branding the rise of angst about Israel's genocide and false flag attacks as a rise in anti-Semitism, instead of a rise in natural concern about such behavior, achieve anything other than Israel's political objectives as they plan. Now, as far as this is my comment, as far as, hate speech, and now if you dare say anything that's critical of Israel, the police will be on your doorstep in 2 minutes. But strange if Israel's Mossad or their hired Islamic terrorist thugs are shooting you up on a Bondi beach, the police won't bother to show up. But of course, they will if you say something hateful. That's right. Just as we predicted, the police won't show up to help you if Israel, Mossad, Islamic terrorists shooting Aussies. That's okay. Like, what's the rush? But if you criticize Israel for bombing children to death, then the same police will be at your doorstep in 2 minutes flat. Moral to the story, if you're being butchered in a massacre by an Israeli false flag, don't call the police, as they won't show up to help. Just start criticizing Israel, though, for bombing kids to death, and someone will report you and the police will arrive in 2 minutes flat to apprehend you, but ignore the paid-for hired Mossad gunmen slaughtering Aussies on the beach. Well, some might say that's brutal, straight to the point, but that's what Aussies are meant to do. Should we stand up for Australia, or should we be like those many weak men in Australia that are saying they stand with Israel? They stand with a fake banker wanker state created by 3 terror groups in the Rothschilds banking family, but they won't stand with Australia. Strange how manipulated they are to see a nation that's systematically exterminating white people, making us a minority in all our countries in the West, and flooding with these massive Muslim immigrants. And they're like, oh, we've got to stop Muslim immigration. Which Israel is doing. So why don't you stop Israel? I mean, if you don't believe that the massive Muslim immigration into the West is caused by Israel, well, who's bombing Muslim nations? Who's in Muslim nations and won't leave and genociding them if it's not Israel? Who is then flooding the West deliberately with their puppet globalist leaders on the left faction Zionists if it's not Israel? And Netanyahu and the right faction is bombing them. So if we want the excess Muslim migration and allow them to go back to their homes, one, maybe we need to get Israel to leave their homeland and stop bombing and genociding them and lying to us about it, and stop flooding us in the West with excess Muslims. Now, I have nothing against Muslims. I think, the West makes out that Muslims are evil people. That's why they recruit Islamic terrorists and extremists, and there is extremists, but that's not a monopoly for Muslims to have that. I live in the largest Muslim nation on the planet, Indonesia, and that's one of the most peaceful people you'll ever meet. traditional values. So people in the West are scared of Muslims. Why? Because Israel scares them. People are scared of Islamic terrorists. Why? Because Israel recruits them, hires them to do the dirty work, and then make out, see, we're going after the terrorists. We have to stop these terrorists. Let's remove your guns. Let's remove your right to criticize us. Let's remove all your rights. Dumb bastards. You fall for all this so easily, so we're just going to take you over. And they do. How many people with this theatrics, with this BS, you know, like, because you're in a real massacre, you know what I'm saying? The massacre wasn't real. The massacre was real, but it's a false flag massacre. This Jewish guy was not really shot in the head. I mean, if you're shot in the head, it's pretty obvious. You wouldn't be taking selfies and then doing TV interviews afterwards. You'd be rushed to hospital without a choice. It's just obvious theatrics. He arrived 2 weeks. He works for Israel. It's a joke. I mean, even Tucker Carlson said Netanyahu is the greatest threat to Western civilization. I can't argue with that. I like what Malcolm Turnbull had to say. Former Australian Prime Minister told Israeli Prime Minister that you should stay out of Australian politics. Yes, and the Jewish people in Australia would lived a safe life. If they wanted to live in Israel, they would have moved to Israel. They live in Australia. It's a safe country. Jewish people, half my friends are Jewish, are treated quite well in Australia, but that's changing, unfortunately, because of Israel fuckery. JD Vance, as we covered last show, would say there's a difference between not liking Israel or disagreeing with a given Israeli policy and anti-Semitism. I don't always agree with JD Vance, but I have to agree with that. Also, Dave Chappelle's come out and says that if he ever says, I stand with Israel, it's a code for they got him, and people should stop listening to anything he says after that. He says his greatest fear is being co-opted, as he doesn't want the same thing to happen to him that happened to Charlie Kirk. And Tucker Carlson stirring up the fake MAGA and Republican movement. Conservative political commentator Tucker Carlson criticized Christian pastors for supporting the Israeli assault on Gaza. They're killing civilians and using religious platforms to deliver political messages. Fair enough. If a man commits a crime, do we kill his kids? I don't care if it's in Minneapolis or Gaza City. No, we don't. I think he's doing a great job, Tucker Carlson. Israel's security camera approved 19 new West Bank settlements. So, of course, Israel is doing what they know best, stealing land and genociding. If you support Israel, I've warned you before, don't. Your reputation will be in ruins in the future. You will suffer as a result. But by all means, continue to stand with the bank and wanker state. Why would you? Because you're being manipulated to. Why would you stand with them as they're wanting to wipe out white people? Why do they want to wipe out white people? Because Christian Western civilization was predominantly built by Christian white men. Western civilization was built by that. So if you want to take over the world and have a one world government, you need to get Christians and Muslims fighting each other to divide, to conquer, black and whites fighting with each other, immigrants, non-immigrants, gays, non-gays. That's why Israel's behind all these agendas, men, women, feminist movement, beat up on white men over 40. They're the ones you should hate because they're the ones that can stand up and tell Israel to FO. And they're the greatest threat. If you need to take over Western civilization, you need to destroy the people that helped build it. White men, predominantly Christians. That's why they're making us a minority. Australia, we used to be the majority. We're now the minority. How many other countries the same? New Zealand, England. We become a minority owned country, and if we dare question why or say anything about it, of course, what are we? Racist. And who's the most racist nation on the planet? It's not Israel. And who tells us that we're racist? It's all Israel. Why do we have protection for anti-Semitism? Isn't that racist? Why not protection for everyone? Epstein case.
I am Jeff Epstein's niece, and I was raised as a sex slave. My father had me separated from my mother and twin brother and administered a substance that was designed to sever my memory. But it broke me subconsciously. I knew something was very wrong, but I had internalized it on myself. And after a suicide attempt in 2015, I got away from the slavery I was in by taking testosterone, transitioning to male. I left Colorado in 2017 and started piecing together back memories that I had assumed were only nightmares in about 2020. That's the very short version of my story.
Yeah, very interesting. Coming out, Jeffrey Epstein's niece. The amount of people, and being sex trafficked, it's huge, and we know where all that stems from. I won't mention the state.
Do you ever hold back?
Excuse me?
Do you ever hold back? Do you ever self-censor?
I would like to ask you, name me another country in the world. 2003, Israel was the cheerleaders for the war in Iraq. 2006, it went into war in Lebanon. 2008, 2009, it attacked Gaza. Now it talks about attacking Iran. If you read the Israeli papers every day, they talk about, should we attack Gaza? Should we attack Lebanon? Should we attack Syria? Name me another country in the world that falls into that category.
Well,
that's a lunatic state.
Israel would point to a number of its neighbors and say exactly the same thing.
No, you show me how many countries has Iran planned to attack? No, let's ask a simple question. How many countries in the last 10 years has Iran attacked?
When you look...
No, that's a fair question. How many countries in the last 10 years has Iran attacked?
When you look at the history of Israel, do you not have some sympathy or understanding, people would ask, as to why they feel threatened and why
we're not talking
they
about why they feel threatened. We're talking about a country that every 2 or 3 years goes to war. And if you follow the press as I do, every day they talk about let's attack this country, let's attack that country. That's not normal. And when I call it a lunatic state, I don't say these things with glee. I'm not happy about that fact. As the American economist, the Nobel laureate Paul Krugman, put it in the New York Times, he said it's perfectly obvious Israel's headed towards national suicide. It's become a crazy state. And he says it's not good for Jews, it's not good for the world where Israel is headed.
I'd have to agree there. I mean, we should listen to more Jewish people. The idea that it's a Jew, if you speak out up against what Israel's doing, it's anti-Jewish. It's absurd. I mean, I'm certainly not anti-Jewish. Half my friends are Jewish. Let's not make an anti-Semitic issue. The rise of anti-Semitism, of course, is directly correlated to the rise of bombs being dropped on innocent people in Gaza, including children. And many Jewish commentators are just as outspoken or more outspoken than myself and others. At independent media, we're not funded by Israel. So why should we stand with Israel? We should stand with humanity. We go, oh, you support Hamas. Do I? Do I support Hamas? Or does the Israeli Prime Minister, Netanyahu, support Hamas? In 2019, if you haven't seen him state clearly, for those who want to achieve Israel's greater political objectives, which is the Greater Israel Project, by the way, we must continue to support Hamas. They created Hamas. They funded Hamas up to 2012, then had Qatar fund them ever since. Plus, they had $1.4 billion US in cash smuggled to them, including Netanyahu, $35 million a month. He's been caught exposed sending to Hamas. They create them so they have an excuse to go into a nation and bomb the shit out of them, genocide. Like take over Syria, put ISIS there. Who created ISIS? Who created Al-Qaeda? If you don't see this game, you're being deeply misled. Now, what about even Australian politicians coming out? Israel has too much influence on Australian politics. Well, they're controlling an investigation into who did the Bondi Massacre. When we put up $10 million, we know who did it. Israel did it. We wouldn't. You don't even have to start an investigation to know that. Because just on the 95% odds, they do all the other ones. So, of course, they're the likely suspect. So why is the prime suspect handling the investigation? Of course, because to cover it up.
I think Australians should be concerned. I have said, I'm on the record saying that the Israel lobby, the Israel Jewish lobby, I think is more accurate because that's the term AJAC uses. The Israel Jewish lobby in Australia is a foreign influence operation. It's designed to put the interests of Israel above the interests of Australia and its foreign policy. And no one else has an operation as well funded. No other country has an operation with offices in every Australian capital city. No one else organises donations to attempt to elevate its influence in the way the Jewish lobby does in Australia. Now, this is simply a fact of life. What Kevin Rudd said to me about this, the reference he made to it, about money being raised. Tony Burke, in one of the cabinet exchanges, said that in just about every discussion he'd had of how we vote on Israel and Palestine, someone had made reference to the importance of campaign donations as a consideration in this. And the model for the Jewish lobby is what happens in the United States. If any member of Congress or the Senate expresses a view critical of Israel, sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, you can guarantee that someone will be funded by supporters of Israel to run against them in the next primary. Now, I remember years ago I had a meeting with someone from the Jewish lobby in Washington who just spelt this out. He spelt out to a group of us, considered to be supporters of Israel, as we were at the time, that this is how they operate. Oh, it's a distortion of democracy because instead of considering our foreign policy priorities and interests, we're swayed to take account of the desires of the Jewish community. And they're very explicit that they will ask if there's the smallest departure, they will immediately seek a meeting with the Prime Minister.
Yes, well, you can't argue that. Now, whether you agree with the politics of Bob Carr, I didn't always agree with that, but he's not the only one that's coming out and saying that. So why are we denying they have a massive political influence? And they've controlled the US foreign policy. The US is a colony of Israel. It's not the other way around. The bankers control the nation. Israel was created by the banker wanker family, the Rothschilds, and those elites have controlled the Western states. And why they want to go to war with Iran and start at the war with Russia and want to start a war with China, because they're the three last major nations, and North Korea add to it, standing in their way of a global takeover. They control the West, including Australia, but they don't want more. They want a one world government run out of Jerusalem. Now, if you support the globalist left, which many obviously watching this show wouldn't, because we're conservative side of politics, the globalist left, the left Zionists, want a one world government. The right faction, Zionists, Netanyahu, funded second biggest sponsor is Murdoch. They want a one world government out of Jerusalem as well. So the only alternative I suggest to people is the BRIC nations. They want a multipolar world. We should have a multipolar world, not a one world government that can enslave you with digital ID, track and trace surveillance, and digital currency, central bank digital currencies planned using a Trojan horse of getting people comfortable with Bitcoin, etc. So let's go for a quick ad break. We'll be back with some more.
What does $78,000 get you in Bali? Introducing Resort KNVOs by LUX. Studios from $79,000 AUD. Hotel-style amenities. Live, work, unwind. Unique design villas, live in or rent out. Prime Seminyak location. Steps to dining, cafes and beach clubs. Projected net annual returns, 12 to 18% PA. Thinking of moving to Bali? Own your place in Seminyak. Own at Resort KNVOs by Lux Seminyak.
The McIntyre Report.
And welcome back, folks. McIntyre Report here. Follow for our news headlines, ANR.news. Follow me on Twitter as well, Jamie McIntyre 21, or you can also follow X on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, although we do get regularly censored and deleted off those platforms. Let's look at even now the big fallout in MAGA. Is MAGA dead? I reported from live in Washington in February when Australian National Review was there for the CPAC, the biggest political action conference for the conservative side of politics back then, almost a year ago now, that we could see a split coming in MAGA because people weren't happy. They wanted America first, but MAGA was turned out disappointing. I warned people, you'll find out Trump is a Zionist, unfortunately, and the political revolution will promise under Trump to make America first was nothing but political massaging by the Israel lobby. to get Trump elected. Of course, they prefer a left-wing nutcase globalist puppet. They're easy to control, but they managed to get full control of the Trump administration, Zionist. And you're not a Zionist, you will not be in the Trump administration. Why do you think Tucker's not there? Why do you think, Candace Owens and people like this aren't invited to speak or part of that? Because they criticize Israel.
Are people who I wouldn't have here, like that little prick Nick Fuentes.
That is an unfortunate individual, and I hate that he gets associated so closely with, the MAGA movement, with my father-in-law, with all of this stuff.
You have MAGA on the one side, and what does this even stand for anymore? You got MAGA on one side. What does that even mean? Make America great for who? Make it great for Israel, Indian immigrants, Chinese students, illegal immigrant farm workers. Make America great again for them. Make Israel great. Make America great for the global empire, defense contractors, big pharma, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, Palantir. What are you for? Are you with America first or are you with MAGA? I think after this month, after this year, 2025 is the year that MAGA died. This is the year that this hat is no longer controversial. The hat is not edgy. The hat is not provocative. It doesn't even mean anything. This hat is dead. This hat is dead. Now, metaphorically speaking. And this is the future.
I agree there with Nick Fuentes. You don't have to agree with what he says and everything. He's provocative, but, he's got valid points. And he's got a huge following because men and younger generation are looking for someone that speaks their truth and not the bullshit Ben Shapiro nonsense.
This party is changing on the issue of Israel. I mean, when I was at Fox, you supported Israel, period. Like, no one was really interested in your actual opinion. You just supported Israel. But the party started to turn after 10/7. I found it kind of funny that Ben thinks he has the power to decide who gets excommunicated from the conservative movement, which shows a willful blindness about his position in it. And I resent that he thinks he's in a position to decide who must say what to whom and when. Thank you. So I don't think we are friends anymore. I've been a very good friend to Ben. Nobody knew who the heck Ben Shapiro was when I started putting him on my shows on the Fox News channel. He just recently came on my tour, as did you. And I gave him the most kind introduction I could possibly give him because I know that he's losing subscribers a lot. And the next thing I saw was him attacking me on stage last night as a coward. So that's not friendship, and I think that's fine with me.
Well said, Megan Kelly. I don't always agree with you, because but at least you got the principle to go, look, I move and talk about issues in the past instead of being globalist controlled media personnel, at least accepting things are changing, and they are.
Do you ever hold back?
And Mike Johnson says we cannot release all the files pertaining to this situation because it might permanently damage the political system. Why? Because it might undermine its legitimacy and credibility. If we found out that the government was being controlled using blackmail and bribery, because it would undermine confidence in our government, in our democracy. If we learned that our civilian elected leaders were not answering to the will of the people, but were actually being controlled by foreign governments, intel agencies, that our tax money, that our government, our military, our regulations are actually under the control of shadowy forces that are engaged in sexual trafficking and blackmail, working for God only knows who. Why would we want to maintain a political order based on that? That's sort of the whole point. We want this to destroy the political system. Were we not clear about that? That's the whole point, by the way, of the Trump movement. The political system is not working for the people. The political system is not answerable or accountable to the people because the political system is corrupt. And at these bottlenecks, this is where intelligence, mercenaries, foreign governments, money is exercising undue influence in a way that is concealed from the public for an agenda that we don't know about, and maybe we don't even understand. Our sovereignty, our freedom, our liberty, our independence has been stolen from us by this system. Why would we want to maintain this system? That's the goal. The system is corrupt. The system has to be destroyed. That's the whole point, is to undermine its credibility, undermine its legitimacy, so that it can be overthrown and replaced. And we're not calling for a violent revolution. We have elections in this country. That's what elections are for. We have a constitution. And if we have free speech, if we have our First Amendment, if we're able to access the public square on social media, then the will of the people should overpower the money. In this case, if we find out who was on the island, we're going to vote to replace everybody that was complicit in it. And that might give you some hope that we can peacefully replace the political system. That's the whole point. Johnson says we can't give away the whole game because then it might undermine the political system. Why? Because you're all guilty? Is that it? Because it's all true? Because you're all guilty and you know that if we saw all the Epstein files, nobody would pay their taxes, nobody would vote, because why would you? What would be the point? You're paying parking tickets while they're being blackmailed for child rape. You're paying taxes. You're forking over 25% every year. 3 months out of the year, you're working for the government, and that money is being controlled by people that were on the island. Yeah, hopefully there would be a revolution the day after that. Hopefully the political order would collapse the next day. That's sort of the point.
It's hard to argue in there. It's the same thing of what I talked about, creating a 21st century modern day political system in 2013. Ever since I launched that, and a political party, 21st Century Australia, Australian National Review, Independent Media Australia, to say we need a new political system. This one's outdated. It's broken. Strangely, how I was attacked, and which are now believed by intelligence agencies using regulatory bodies to carrot and media, Fairfax media, left-wing media, character assassinate you, go after your companies, cut off your funding, and destroy you. What? For speaking out and warning people what was coming, for wanting to have a nationalist leader, wanting to have a new political system, restore the power back to the people. So of course in America, they want to destroy the existing Republican Party, because MAGA is dead. American first people go, we want America first, Israel last. You can't have Israel first and America first. They do not go together. It's either America first, dump Israel, or Israel will destroy America. Israel is going to destroy itself. It's a nation on national suicide. What else do you expect going to happen when it starts bombing Iran next? Iran will just take them out. And the world will cheer on. Now, we don't advocate violence. We don't want violence. We can end this simply by sanctioning the supporters of Israel. Sanction Israel and Israeli companies, and sanction the supporters, and go, look, if you're going to support genocide and Holocaust, modern day ones you can see in the real proof of, and just deflect back to fabricated, exaggerated ones 80 years ago, which the people that lie about doing Holocaust everywhere are telling us, no, but this one was true. All the others that we do aren't. And like, you believe that? Then if we continue to support them or have supporters, cancel them, fire them from the job. Sorry, if you support dropping bombs on children, innocent people, you support war after war after war, you support a banking cartel state, a 6 satanic state. If you support that, I don't think this is the right place for you to work. Fire them. Actually, if your business supports that, I don't think I want to give it any money. Stop doing business with them. Is that why they're bringing in laws that you can't sanction Israel? You can't boycott Israel. I mean, they created cancel culture. They started World War II by declaring war on Germany, Judea war, by sanctioning, boycotting them. They started the war. I mean, they did it to Russia, and that's why no one wants to use the US dollar. It's been de-dollarized, and other BRIC nations are going, we can't trust the US dollar anymore. So we can do it peacefully by just simply sanctioning. If someone does bad behavior, so sorry, you're canceled. Sorry, we're going to sanction you until you change your behavior. It's just very simple. Let's go to a quick ad break. We'll be back with some more in just a moment.